Okay. All right. Cool. But my camera is a little looks a little dirty. I'm not sure. It's not the camera. It's the settings on my laptop. So I need to express and show the older people that Gen Z is not being strange or weird. Now, the lingo that they use may change, but that happens with every single um, subset of a new generation. Um, I can't think of any other word that we used when I was a child. Rad, cool, maybe tubular in the surfer area of people that were surfers. Tubular. Um, I'm trying to think of any other words we used. Yeah, I mean, kids in the 60s, groovy, those kind of things, they change as society changes. So the words that anywhere I would say between the 20-year-olds to the 27-year-olds, because I'm encompassing anybody that just finished a 4-year degree. And if they started when they were 22 or 23, they're probably class of 2024 or 2025. They're probably about 27 now. And sometimes people wait until they're 22 or 23 to start college because they don't know what degree to go into. They don't really know what to do when they're 18 or 19, and they want to wait until they're 21 or 22 after they get some years of experience in whatever. So when when the youth, when the 20-year-olds say something like, they're not training me, there's no training program, they're being honest. The only difference is that it may be a language thing. I gotta change these settings with the. I gotta change these settings. It's like not clear. It's like really bad. Maybe that will be better. A little bit. Um, so I can definitely tell a difference. I'm gonna leave these off because I don't have anti-glare on these. I can definitely tell a difference in the employers just in the last 2 or 3 years. Um, it seems as though it changed right around COVID time, or maybe a little bit before COVID time. It definitely wasn't like this in the early 2000s. Uh, Back then, employers took time to ask questions. Everything's changed now. Everything's changed. So, to employers through networking, but it really wasn't networking because people really have to know you. So people say, you want a job, you can't go on a job board and put your resume up there. That doesn't work. You have to network. And people used to say something like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. Who knows you so well. They know what your background is, they know what your skill set is, they know where your strengths are. They know what positions are good for you. They know where you shine. They know where you do not shine. They know where, like, if you have a growth mindset and you're willing to learn anything. They know if you're a hard worker. They know if you are strategic and you're a smart worker and you're strategic. They know if you're a complainer or not. That's the key. It's not who you know, Mr. Job Seeker. It's who knows you. And they got to know you so well. Like, yes, I'm going to interview them. I know they worked in this industry. I know they worked in accounting. I know they worked in, um, I don't know, uh, um, let's see, another role, engineering somewhere, or they worked in a purchasing office somewhere. And I know they have all this experience, but they're gonna bring it all together, and they're gonna ask questions, but they really know your background. They really know your skill set. Now they're gonna bring you in to see how the good of a fit they are with that person is with their company. And everything, it's just like like what happened to people? It's not just employers, guys. It's individual people too. It's strange. It's very strange. So last year, end of the year, somebody didn't know me from Adam, and I hit a hard spot, and I was looking for help. And I've ran into some dead ends with like social services. There were a lot of dead ends, like 211 was a dead end, and another thing like Catholic Charities was a dead end, and all these different things. So I had to get really creative and found somebody through a church. I think it was through a church. And she helped me out, and she didn't know what my work background was. She didn't really ask me. She didn't really get to know me, what my work background was. People will size you up. People will really size you up because work is a social construct. It depends on where you live. It depends on the region that you live in. So let me give you an example. Health, mental illness, and work is a social construct. With mental illness, people get together, doctors get together. There's no blood test for a mental illness. It's just a theory. Okay, I think that should be a symptom of bipolar. I think that should be a symptom of depression. Oh, definitely. That needs to be a symptom of whatever personality disorder. That right there. Yes. That's all it is. There's no blood test. Health is the same thing because it depends on where you live. So health is going to be totally different based upon if you live in like Spain or Finland. They're gonna measure health differently than in America. Same thing with work. If you live in an area that is highly populated by a lot of healthcare jobs, and there's a lot of doctors and nurses and hospitals and clinics, and there everywhere you go, there's clinics and healthcare and clinics and healthcare and doctors and hospitals, and maybe a lot of like physical therapists, and that's predominantly the area that you live in. People are, if you say I need work, I'm looking for a job, people are going to say, why don't you go to Kaiser, or why don't you go over there to whatever hospital and work in housekeeping? They're always hiring. They're going to size you up, and they're going to judge it based upon where you live. Happens here. There's Amazon everywhere. When you have an industry that is right smack dab where you live, there is nothing but third party logistics here. And it happens all the time to people. And it happened twice to me, once in the end of the year in 2024 and once in the beginning of 2025. And these people did not know me well enough. They did not. They thought they knew me, but they didn't. These people didn't want to take the time to ask questions. So there's two different people in each scenario. So there was four people. There was four because there was two situations. So we had that middle person that kind of knew me. One kind of knew me from church. I don't like that word church. I say center, but she kind of knew me. She sized me up, and she said, I know someone. I used to work with her, and she has her own business. Maybe she can hire you. But this woman didn't take the time to get to know me. She didn't sit me down and say, what's your work background? Tell me what you've done. What have you done in the last 5 years? People usually want to know what your last job was because they want to size you up. Don't judge me by my last job. Don't judge me by, the accounting position that I had last year. And I worked in a tax office. It wasn't HR block. It was a tax office. And, did that for, I don't know, 2 months or something. And before that, I was canvassing. But am I a canvasser? No. Don't size me up because you put me in a box. I am the box. I'm going to destroy the box and I'm going to become the box because I am the box because I'm an Aquarius rising. So don't try to size me up and say, what was your last job? That's the wrong question. You need to ask me, what are your values? What's your motivation? What kind of things have you done? What kind of achievements have you made on and like business processes or achievements that you have made? What kind of difference did you make? Not I answered the phones. No. Did you bring in 25 new customers? And out of those 25 new customers, 10 of them, uh, uh, 10 of them was 50% of new ROI. Did you do that? How did you do it? You know, did you present a new product to these 25 customers? Did you come up with a plan? Did you make a plan? Did you do something like that? And you said, well, these customers, some of them are in America, some of them are Russia, some of them are in Ukraine, some of them are in China, you know, and you created something to present to these 25 different customers. They were new, and 10 of them said yes. And now you brought in 50% more revenue. That's what employers want to know, but people aren't going to take the time to know that. They just want to know, okay, what was your last job? Who cares what your last job was? I don't freaking care if your last job was a garbage man or you were a postman or you were working in a factory making dildos. I don't care. What I want to know is, what is your motivation? What I want to know is, you know, what kind of difference did you make? Did you find in your process in working in a factory somewhere, or maybe a 3PL, you found a bottleneck and you found a process that was sticking and it was making it harder for the customers to get through, and maybe the customers weren't getting their orders quick enough. Maybe they were getting wrong orders and you found that out and you fixed it. What did you do? What did you do? Was there an error in the mixture of the whatever, if you're working in a factory or something like that, or maybe you work in a place that makes cakes and you are in the back and you are mixing the cake mix and you realize there's another brand that's better and it's healthier and it's also cheaper and it's healthier, and you can provide the stats on the health because you looked it up and you researched it, but your job title was baker. You know, baker, that's what you did. You did the baking. That's what people want to know, but people don't take the time to ask those kind of questions. They don't. So 2 positions. One lady from my church said, I worked for someone a couple years ago. I don't know. It would have been nice if she would have said to me, I'm going to ask you your work background because I know what she worked on. I know what industry she worked on. And I'm going to find out if you're a really good fit so that she doesn't waste her time in calling you, and you don't waste your time talking to her. She could have said, let me ask you these questions to find out what your experience is. Now I'm going to go to my friend and talk to her and tell her what your experience was and all that within the last 10 years or whatever, and go to her. And then she can make a decision if she should call you for her own analysis of what you've done and your motivation and everything like that. That did not happen. That did not happen. That would have saved me, and that would save that middle person just saying, tell me about yourself. That's why you need friends that really know you. Because if you have church people that kind of know you, they're going to size you up because they're going to think she needs a job. Okay, McDonald's. You say job, it's going to be a product of where you live. Job, work is a social construct. That's what it is. All you have to do is look around to see, oh, there's nothing but Target and Walmart and burger flipper jobs. You say job, people are going to think that because everybody can do it. And they're going to think everybody can do it. Everybody's good at it. Everybody's not good at it. It takes a certain kind of person to do that. Take a certain kind of person to be analytical. Takes a certain kind of person to look at the details. Not everybody likes details. Did you know not everybody likes phones? Did you know that there's some people that can't stand answering phones and they rather work as a garbage man because they don't want to deal with the phones and they don't want to deal with people. And there's other people that love it and they thrive on it. And they're like, yes, I want to be that front person because I want to smile and I want to put a smile on other people's faces. Did you know that there's different kinds of people like that? But people don't want to take the time. What ended up happening was, it was like the end of the year last year. I want to say it was around Christmas, but it might have not have been. It might have been around Thanksgiving. But nonetheless, this woman called me and she said, have you ever worked in customs? And I said, no, I've never worked in customs. Would you like to know what I have done? And, maybe there's something else that I have done that is something that can be a transferable job skill to what you are looking for. And she said, well, we work with a lot of international waters. And I said, okay, I've worked at a lot of government jobs and every single government job is the same. There's laws, there's processes, and they always change. There's always a process that's changing. There's always a law that's changing. There's always some type of rule that's changing. It's government. I've worked for many different government roles. I've worked for the federal government. I've worked for the county government. I worked for 2 different counties. I've never worked for a city. And I haven't worked for the state. I haven't worked for the state. But federal government, yes. County government, 3 or 4 different county roles and 2 different counties. So every single place has procedures and policies that change because laws change all the time. It's no different with customs. It's no different. You can apply this everywhere, but employers don't care. They are very, very specific. They're very picky. They used to not be like this. And I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is. I mean, now it's probably artificial intelligence because 2025 and OpenAI went public a few months ago. But I noticed a change somewhere around 2019, maybe 2020, somewhere around 2019 or 2020. I noticed this change. And I thought, what is going on? Recruiters don't even know what goes in that job because they've never done it before. They're going on Google and like say, what does a blah, blah, blah do? And then Google gives them a list of things and then they put that in the job description where maybe they only need somebody to do 5 of those things, but they have 20 things and you must have all those 20 things. And that recruiter's never done that job. How do they know what's needed if they've never done it before? The hiring manager would know. The hiring manager would know because hopefully if they've done it before, I would hope. So the questions with this woman when she called me, the woman that owned this business with the customs, she asked me if I knew how to turn on a computer. She said, do you know how to turn on a computer? And I said, yes. She goes, do you know how to use a computer? I said, yes. She said, do you understand Google Docs? And I said, yes, I understand Google Docs. And she goes, what about Google Sheets? And I said, yes, Google Sheets is easy. I've used it before. And then she said, well, when's the last time you used Google Sheets or Google Docs? And I said, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I use Microsoft everything now. Everything I use Microsoft now, but it's not hard to use Google Sheets and Google Docs. It's pretty much the same. And I'm gonna guess that the last time I used Google Sheets or Google Docs was probably around 2022 or 2023, somewhere around in that time, because I was on a team and it was a volunteer and we had to vote for certain things and we had to go over all the documents and everybody wanted Google Docs. It seemed simpler instead of people having, oh, I don't have Microsoft 365 and I don't have the money to pay for it and la 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 la. So everybody said Google Docs. We all agreed on that. And that was not that long ago. 2022 was not that long ago. But because I didn't have that experience in customs, this woman did not know me. And that middle person, that woman from my church, did not ask me those key questions that she could have, to say, you know what, I'm going to find out if you're a good fit. I'm going to tell my friend that this is what you said. I took notes. That way she can go over this and then she can call you or not call you, because I don't want to waste my friend's time and I don't want to waste your time. So if you're not a good fit, she's not even going to call you. That didn't happen. So, and it was interesting because this woman that owned this customs business, she said, well, I said, tell me your pain points. I said, you know, I can upload a resume for you so you can see my background, but I really want to understand your business. I really want to understand your problem that you're trying to solve, because if you're trying to solve XYZ, then if you give me a clear description of what you need done, I could tailor my resume to that. But me just giving you a resume like a I don't know what you need, I'm just going to throw out a resume. I said, I don't know what you need. And she said, well, I have this woman and she's 70 and she understands the job, but she's getting slow and she's getting forgetful. And I need someone that can learn really quick and not forget. And I said, well, I'm not 70 and I learn really quick. And I don't have a problem with Google Sheets or Google Docs. Well, something I said didn't resonate with her. Maybe I didn't know how to tell a story. I don't know what it was. But she did not want me. I went back to my friend. I said, she called me. She goes, what questions she asked you? I said, this, she asked me this, she asked me this. And she said, well, I'll go back to her and I'll contact her. And it was like a month later. She said, yes, she said she didn't want to hire someone new because she didn't want to train anyone. And I said, really? She didn't want to train anyone? She goes, that's what she said. And I go, she told me she had somebody that was 70 that was forgetting things, and she forgot some of the processes of whatever her job was in customs. I don't know what her job was, but she was forgetting things. And she goes, she didn't want to hire anybody and have to train them. And I'm like, how do you expect to learn? You have to learn and you have to train people. You have to train people. You have to. Anybody that's like 40 and over, if you're born in 1985 or before, you're going to know that every single job has a training period. There's no way around it. You're not an expert in their processes. Even if you worked in customs for 10 years, so what? You haven't worked for that company and you need to be trained. And just because you worked in packing before at another company, they may pack a different way. They may have a different process of packing. So what? You worked at FedEx and or UPS. They have a different process. I remember when I worked at UPS in 2004, I worked on the ramp. I was an AM ramper. And we had a certain process for those planes, and we had a certain training, and we trained a certain way. I can guarantee you it's different at FedEx. I can guarantee you. So I don't know where companies think that you should just know it, because no, they need to be trained your way. They need your training. If you're hiring for a role, they need that. Nobody comes in an expert in your business processes. They might know the overall whatever. So, I just don't understand. There was another guy that called me, and this middle person didn't know me. And I guess she thought, I don't know what she thought about me. She didn't know me. And she said, well, I know somebody that owns a call center. And she goes, now, I don't know if he's hiring. I don't know if he's looking for anyone, but I can definitely tell him about you. Well, I said, well, how can you tell him about me if you don't really know me? You don't really know my work background or anything. And I said, do you want a resume or do you want 2 different resumes? And she said, no, I'll just tell him you're looking for work. And I said, that's it? You're just going to tell him I'm looking for work and that's it? And she's like, you need a job, right? Now, here I am trying to be strategic. I'm not trying to be picky. I'm trying to get a good fit. I don't want to spin my wheels in a job that doesn't fit with my skill set, because not everybody's good at whatever you have. And it was like the end of the year. I think he called me in February of 2025 out of the blue, just randomly out of the blue. And he said, "Yeah, I was talking to my friend so and so, and she said that you needed a job, and she doesn't really know you, and she's a good friend of mine, and I'm just looking to see what kind of experience you have." And I said, "Well, she told me you own a call center, so I'm assuming this is some type of telemarketing job or something like that." And he said, "Well, not really. It's a medical call center." And I said, "Oh, okay." And he said, he didn't know anything about me. It was kind of just weird. And these people, like, they have not seen any resume of mine. Forget me tailoring the resume to the job description is what I want to do. Forget it. They did not want to see my resume at all. They didn't care about my work background at all. He said, "Well, do you know how to answer phones?" And I said, "Yes, I know how to answer phones." And he said, "Okay. Do you know how to take notes?" And I said, "Yes, I know how to take notes." And he said, "Good. What about like Word and like things like that?" And I said, "Yes, I know Microsoft Word." And it was very basic stuff. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't ask me if I knew how to turn on a computer. I did ask him because this woman, the middle woman, said it might be remote. I'm not sure. You might want to ask him. And I said, "Okay." And I asked him, "Is this position remote? Because so and so that told me about you said this could be remote." He goes, "It could be, but most of the people like to come into the office, and it's just 10 or 15 miles away. It's like the next city over. So, not an issue for me to drive 12 or 15 miles one way. Not an issue." So, I don't remember all the questions he asked, but they were very basic questions. And nobody asked, "What were your achievements? What kind of achievements do you make? Did you make any improvements to a business process? Did you make any recommendations to upper management? Did you see any issues with customers and you found out how to take care of customers in a better way? You cut down waiting times for customers?" Nothing like that. So because they did not ask me those type of questions, I knew it was just a basic job. Again, people will try to size you up. They will. It's just something that people do, that we compare each other to each other all the time. And it could be something that we don't even know that we're doing, but we still do it. So I that was like February of maybe early February of 2025. And I said thank you. And I heard nothing from this guy. I went back to the woman that told me about him. And she said, "Oh, yeah, she said that you weren't the right fit." And I said, "What the hell is he looking for? What is he looking for?" And she goes, "Not you," or something like that. She said, "Not," I think she said something like, "Not you." I think she said something like, "You seem to be overqualified," or "You seem to have too much knowledge of something," or you weren't the right fit because you just weren't looking for just a job in a call center. Like, I think it was taking notes from like people that missed their doctor's appointment, or if they couldn't get in their doctor's appointment because they had another emergency and they had to, or if they had to talk to their doctor about something like, "Hey, something came up. This came up. I'm just following up. I had my appointment a week ago. Can you let the doctor know so and so and so and so?" And it was like multiple doctor offices. It wasn't just one, it was many. And I think he was looking for somebody that had a lot of experience on the phones, a lot of experience in the medical field, which I told him, "Well, I have experience in mental health, but not in a call center for health. I didn't work I said I worked in a call center, but it wasn't for health. Do you see how there's these silos happening? So if you worked at a call center, but it wasn't in a health call center, they don't want you. If you've worked in accounting, but it wasn't in customs, they don't want you. So 2019, this happened in 2019. I took a class. It was like $250 or $300. Everybody in the class, there was like 20, 25 people in the class. Everybody felt the same way. I thought it was just me. And then I was corrected. Like, no, you're not the only one. It was not a hands-on class for QuickBooks. It was 2019. I had money back then. I had extra money. And I said, okay, this class is $250 or $300. It's all day. I have the money for QuickBooks. I can learn QuickBooks quickly by doing it. Everybody wanted to hands-on. We get there, and this woman's up there talking, and she's up there with a pen. She has her laptop, and she has something to show the laptop, and she's like, this is it. And somebody in the back says, excuse me, when are we going to do this on our laptops? And she goes, oh, yeah, I'm sorry I didn't say this in the beginning, but this is where you watch me and I lecture you. Now, you could take notes on your laptop and then you could print them out if you want to do that. That's what those laptops are there for. You can print them out, but this is not hands-on. You're not going to do any of this stuff. And we're like looking at each other. So we had like brought our own notepads, and she's like, if we had Intuit QuickBooks installed in every computer, she goes, that would cost us thousands of dollars. And we're like, what do you think we're here for? We're not here just to watch you lecture us. We're here for hands-on training. And there were people much more experienced than me that were already working in like construction, or maybe they were working in another field using QuickBooks, but they needed one little tiny little extra area of training on this one particular thing. And they needed a certificate because they were applying to a different job, but they had all this experience in QuickBooks over here in this industry, because there is a QuickBooks specifically for construction. There is. So that was like a one-day training. All of us were very, very disappointed in it because we thought we had hands-on. About a year later or 6 months later after that, I found out. You apply to construction jobs, they will ask you, do you have construction experience? They don't care about your QuickBooks experience. They want to know the industry you worked in. If you haven't worked in construction, they don't want you. I said, HVAC, I've worked in an HVAC office before. Nope. They don't care. Because HVAC is a little tiny part of a house or a little tiny part of a business. They're little air conditioning. HVAC might be also the heating. I don't know. But for me, where I worked, it was pretty much air conditioners. And the air conditioners went out. They wanted to replace. They didn't want to fix. They wanted everybody to replace, to upgrade and spend all the kind of money and everything. But construction is so much bigger. It's like construct a house, construct a hospital. What are you building? A hospital, a house, an apartment complex? That's huge. But HVAC is just a very little section of whatever you're building. So that didn't count. And that was 2019, right? I believe it was 2019 before the pandemic, because I remember in 2020, I had a job with the U.S. Census Bureau, and I took it because I couldn't find anything else. And then there was another job with it was a county job, but like everything was on hold. So all these positions that were supposed to open up like in March, that one opened up in June. And the one that was supposed to open up in June opened up in September, because Gavin Newsom was like, well, nope, we got to hold the horses. Nope, we can't do this. We can't move forward. Everybody has to stay home. Even if you live alone, you have to stay home and look at four walls and just, so all that, finding all that out about specific industry experience. I found that out in 2019. And yeah, it's like employers don't want to take the time to learn about people, and people don't want to take the time to learn about people. They will size you up. So when you hear somebody that is Gen Z, not a millennial, Gen Z, someone like 20, 21, 25, right out of college, okay, you might know how to, I don't know, you might know how to code, or you might know how to do accounting, but you better have industry experience in that industry, whatever that is. You might need just a little heads up. So it's not who you know, it's who knows you. And now it's a likability game. You got to be likable. And I would say, yeah, maybe spend 5 hours or less, maybe even 3 hours on just applying to jobs. And I would say, if you can, go to 5 networking events a week, if you can, one a day. If you can't, maybe go to 3 a week, and try to ask questions on what people need, what their pain points are. Try to read between the lines. If you can, take notes, not while you're taking notes and everything, but after. This person needed this, they worked in this industry, they needed this. Get numbers, talk. I can't tell you how many times I have traded numbers with people in 2020, or let's say 2019, 2018, even 2022. I've traded numbers with people. They never call me. I don't call them. It's like, what happened? People don't call people anymore. It's weird. And it started happening before COVID. Like right around 2018, 2019, it started happening right around there. People don't call people anymore. It's like they don't want to be vulnerable. Are they afraid of being judged? I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is. But if you go on any platform, anywhere, and you see TikTok is full of younger people. Facebook, I think the average user is like 45, 50, maybe 60. Facebook was around, I want to say, I think I created an account on Facebook like around 2007, 2009, 2010. So the average Facebook user, I don't think, is 25. You want the young ones? Go to TikTok or Snapchat or some of the other ones that I don't know about. If you go on those platforms, YouTube included, and you hear of Gen Z saying, they are not training me. They're being honest. They're not being lazy. 50, hello, 50. I'm here. I've been waiting for 50. I know I don't look it, but you know, here I am 50, and I'm like, wow, what is going on here? There's a funnel of people saying, oh, people over 50 can't get jobs. There's a funnel of people saying the 20-year-olds, or the new grads, the 2025s. I don't know. I'm going to say the 2024s as well. Maybe more 2025. I don't know what the statistics are of hiring for 2024 and hiring for 2025 grads. I don't know the statistics, but I'm going to say both are pretty low, both of them. But who can get hired? Is it the people that have no degree at all? Like, it seems like employers don't care. Like, if you have a degree, just I'm thinking, just leave it off. Just leave it off your resume. Just don't even put it on unless the job description has a specific, you need to have a degree in engineering, and it needs to be a master's degree in engineering, and it says it. Like county jobs will very specific. They'll say must have 1 year experience in blah 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 blah, plus a bachelor's degree. Option 2, must have 4 years experience in this plus an associate's degree. Or option 3, must have 10 years experience, no degree. It'll be very specific on county or city or government roles. That's why I have so many different resumes, because I have one resume saying same thing for the same position. One has my bachelor's degree and my master's degree on it. The other one only has my bachelor's degree. The other one has no degree. Because, and I put on there B or M. And if there's no bachelor's degree, it's not on, if there's no M, I don't. So I know which one. And it's taking me maybe 30 minutes, sometimes an hour to edit, because I always tailor it to that job. And I'm thinking, you know what? Probably, I'm going to say in 2 years, we're not going to have a need for a resume, because social credit scores are going to be going around. People are sizing you up. They want to know if they like you. They just want to know if you feel good. And if you feel good around them, then they'll hire you. And I'm thinking, feeling good? Really? That's how we solve problems? We feel good? I'm very analytical. Very analytical. So I like numbers. So back in, I believe it was 2023, this woman was 26, 20, no, she was 36 or 37. I don't know how old she is now. I'm going to say she's probably 37, 38, something like that. So she's only like 12, 13 years younger than me. Not that much younger than me. And she has kids. And she was talking about the word vanilla. Now, I could be putting myself at risk right now, because I don't know if you could use the word vanilla in every single situation, but I was told it means basic or basic level or simple. And she said, "Oh, that's vanilla." And I said, "Vanilla? Are we talking about ice cream?" And she's like, "Oh, yeah, you need to know what that means." So she explained it to me, and I said, "Oh, okay." So that's something that the younger generations at the vanilla was like, I'm like, what the hell is that? I guess my phone is being charged in the other room right now because I'm looking for it and I can't find it on the thing over here. So the lingo is going to change with the people that are coming up as they go into work. But it's true. If you see anything on YouTube or anything on TikTok or any other platform, and you hear these people, these young Gen Zs talk, and they say, "Oh, they didn't train me," they're being honest. And I'm thinking a lot of people of maybe the baby boomers and maybe some Gen X's maybe thinking that they're lazy. But I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Yes, they might be doing this a lot with their phone because they grew up with them. I didn't get my first smartphone until 2016, after I got out of the life insurance industry. I was in the life insurance industry in October 2015. And I didn't have a smartphone. I had a Garmin. It was a map that moved on my dash. I don't even know how much the Garmin was. I think it was like $50, but I didn't have the monthly bill like a cell phone. I had one of those Nokia bricks or whatever. I had that until 2016. And I said, it's time for me to get a smartphone. So it was like February or March 2016, I got my first smartphone. I felt so proud of myself. I was like 42, 41, 42 when I had my first smartphone. And I could start texting, because the other one was like AAA, BBB, CCD, DD, AA, BB, BBC, BB2. I was like, each letter was a number, each number was a letter. And let's see, that's 2016. So I was 41-ish. So somebody that is like 40 now, they would have been like 30 or 29. So the people that are 10 years younger than me, they would remember that. They would remember that. But the 30-year-olds now, if they were 20, they might remember all the 11133, like 332, 558, 772, because each whatever would correspond with the letter. So if it was the second letter of that, you'd have to press it twice. It was the third letter, you had to press that number 3 times just to get that letter. It took forever. That's the way it was back in like 2002, 2004, 2008, 2010, unless you got an iPhone in whenever that was, what, 2009, 2007, somewhere around there, an iPhone. So I was a late bloomer with the smartphone. So yeah, I'm going to say 20-year-olds might remember. They might. I don't know. If you're like 25 and you remember like when you were a teenager, what it was like with that. If you had a like a brick, they were called bricks, the Nokias, the bricks, or flip phone. Oh my gosh. But technology always changes, and these employers act like, I don't want to hire anybody that I have to train. They got to know everything. I heard this multiple times. There's nothing in the middle. There's nothing in the middle. So you're not an executive, human resources executive. You're not a executive director of interior design. You're not going to do the interior design of the business. You're not the executive director of, I don't know, think of something, vice president of technology, or the CIO, chief information officer. You're not that, but you're also not the company janitor. You're not the company receptionist. There's no more middle managers. They cut the fat. They're like, we don't need 10 middle managers doing this. We can just have 1 or 2, and each middle manager or each one of those people in the middle can use AI to help them with their processes. So it's the bottom, janitors, receptionists, which are going out, cashiers. I don't know, something that can't be repeatable. Childcare workers, nurses, doctors, care workers. So you're going to take care of people that can't walk, and you need to get them in the shower, and they can't reach their butt, and they can't reach their toes. So you need to trim their toenails, which I don't know who would do that unless you're like a podiatrist. Or if you want to be in the middle, become an electrician, or be a plumber, or work in concrete, pour concrete, because it's either that if you want to be in the middle, or be a janitor and go around in Amazon and walk around Amazon, how, LGB3 and Chino, it's like this, I think it's like the size of 10 football fields, or ONT8, ONT8. I want to say that's the size of 4 football fields. So you walk around just different bathrooms, and do the toilet paper, and put toilet paper in, and just walk around and sweep, and they'll assign you whatever it is. You sweep, and you just keep on walking, and you'll walk 8, 9, 10 miles a day in an Amazon that's like 4 football fields. That it could be 4 stories, it could be 2 stories. Why do you think it's called Amazon? It's not 1 football field, it's like 4 or 10. And it's going to probably take you 25, 30 minutes to walk from one end to the other. Just walking one end to the other take you 25 minutes, 20 minutes. So there's nothing in the middle at all. And employers are like, these expectations are like insane. They don't want to do the work anymore of reading your resume to dig to find out what you have done. They want you to put it into plain English, the results that you did. Discovered or streamlined a process to bring in 10 new customers from six different countries, streamlined a process to bring in 6 new customers. Maybe you worked in business to business sales and that was your job. So you don't put down made phone calls, business to business. No. They don't care about your duties. They don't care. They want to know what kind of difference you made. But they don't want to have to like think. They want it like in plain English. So they want you to describe all this. But they're not gonna ask you. You just have to like know what they're looking for without knowing what they're looking for. So it does take me sometimes an hour to create a resume that is perfect for an employer, and I'm trimming the fat really, because no fluff. Employers don't want fluff. I don't even like a career summary, because to me a career summary is like an objective statement. Objective, like the 1990s objective, seeking a career in la 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 la. It's like they know you're seeking at. That's why you applied to that position. They know that's what you want. They know that you want to change careers from, I don't know, bagger or Kentucky Fried Chicken or something like that to this. And I think it's probably going to be easier for nurses or for doctors or for firemen, because if you got your degree in nursing or your doctor, or you got your, I don't know how it is for plumbers or mechanics. I don't know, because some of these places you get training and they don't want you. Same thing with property management. It's brutal because it's run by women, and a lot of women, it's competition. They could be doing it unconsciously. They could be doing it like they could be doing it without even knowing they're doing it. Like they just don't know. But I've seen it since I was 30, trying to get into property management, and I have everything they want. But one thing I don't have, Yardie. I don't have Yardie experience. And because of that, they throw my resume out, because I don't have that Yardie experience. I took a class. It was free. It was a 4 hours or 6 hours on the fair housing laws in California and the federal housing, the fair housing laws in the federal government. And there's a race, religion, family, family status. Let's see, there's 7 of them. National origin, race, religion. I know I'm missing some. Disability. So they can't discriminate against you like Section 8 housing based upon your race and based upon your country of origin, or your like your family size. Like maybe you're pregnant, or maybe you're a single mom, or you're a single mom and you're pregnant, or you're disabled and you're looking for a lower level apartment, not a higher level apartment, and you need that lower level apartment because you have cerebral palsy and you can't climb up the stairs, or you're asking for accommodation because you're in a wheelchair and you can't go up the stairs. Disability is easy. It might be a little bit harder if you have a hidden disability, but you can't discriminate based on those 7 protected classes. And I thought just by going to career strategies in Rancho Cucamonga that I would be able to get in. And I called available every day for about, I'm going to say about 3 months. After that, I said, no more. I asked them, and they said, oh, our clients want people to have experience in Yardie. And I'm like, that would have been nice to tell me up front if your clients want people had to have experience in Yardie. But because I don't have experience in Yardie, People just throw out my resume. That's like not even giving people a chance. This is why I'm talking about training. You talk to anybody that's over 40. So if you're born in 85, 84, 83, and behind, and you're older than that, everybody's going to say to somebody else, of course, you're going to go get training on a new job. Employers don't expect you to know everything. Yes, they do. They do now. They do. I had a job recently working at a nonprofit, and they didn't like the forms. They didn't name the forms, like they didn't call them out by their number. I used to work in life insurance in 2015. I did it for 6 weeks. It was a stipend. It was a gas stipend of $600 a week. After that, it was commission only, and it was very standardized for the forms. If you had a sale and you had to fill out forms, or you had to get forms and mail them to the people in life insurance, maybe you drove to the people for them to fill out. My boss or whoever, maybe my boss's boss, the office manager, would say, "Hey, you remember to put form number. You need to get form number 22778B. Did you get that form?" Everybody knew what that was. It wasn't like one person was calling it XYZ and another person was calling it release of information, and another person was calling it sharing information, another one was calling it this. No, everybody called it by its form number, AB127XYZ. Did you get that form? Everybody knew what that was because it was uniform. Uniform. And it's like that with the county too. The county had everything on the computer, and you can look up like a sheet on the computer to see all the forms, that hundreds and hundreds of forms when working with the county. And it would list them 12789B, and then it would list the name, and then 12789C, and would list the name. And everybody knows, did you add in SOP 123 to that? Well, you better go in your desk aid and go get that and print it out, because you need SOP 123. You can't leave that out. And everybody knew what that was because it was uniform. And I just had a job recently. I stayed there 1 week. 1 week. And most of it was human resources training and IT training, active shooter. This is what to do in the case of emergency. This is the case what to do in flood. This is what we do when your computer is hacked, or this is how you keep your computer from hacking, and you don't click on these links. And if you get this email, this is who you report it to. Stuff like that. All that HR training. And it took about 30 hours I worked 40 hours, and after that, I was gone. All I did was ask. And I'm new. I've never worked in an industry like this. And you have a paper file with forms that we had to gather from other places, and then forms for ourselves, but we had to get forms from others, and they had to be in a certain order. And the computer too. And I asked somebody that's coming in, brand new, never done this before, how long do you think it's going to take for them to know the file, know where everything goes in the file, and know your computer system too? And they said about 2 or 3 days. And I went, my jaw dropped. 2 or 3 days? Everybody knows you're not going to learn everything in 2 or 3 days. They expected me to know everything in 2 or 3 days. How much did they train me for on the job? Because I was in that HR training so much during the week. I had to get those things done. I was in that office a lot, just sitting down, watching the person, just making phone calls. No communication between me and my boss, nothing like that. And I was just sitting there watching her making phone calls. After about an hour or two, I said, you know what, I'm going to go downstairs and do this HR training because you look really busy, and I'm not sure if you need my help right now, but somebody's on that computer right there, and it looks like you two share an office. I can't get on that computer to learn the computer stuff. I'm just going to go downstairs and do that HR stuff. No communication between my boss and I. I was hired through a staffing agency. And she goes, okay, yeah. She goes, come up tomorrow morning, such and such time, and we'll go over the agenda and we'll do this. Okay. I did. And one day it was like 2 hours training on the files, and another day it was like 2 hours training on the files, and I think an hour and a half on the computer. I was gone within a week. They didn't want to train me at all. They expected me to know their processes. They expected me to know that. And they called them something else. Like they had a sheet and they said one was like release of information. Okay, fine. Is that 1 page or is that 5 pages? And you need release of information like medical. And the next one is like, I don't know, work history. And the next one is like, I don't know, where you've lived in the past 5 years. I'm just making stuff up, right? Release of information. Is that 1 page or is that 5 pages? What is that? And then like case notes. Okay. If the next one is case notes, is that 1 page? Is that 2 pages? Is that 3 pages? What is that? Because everything when I worked in the insurance industry is standardized. Everybody knew what everybody was talking about because we didn't say, you got to get that form, share information form. What's that? Is that AB 1782? No, that's SOP 157. That's what I'm talking about. Well, then say that. So that company that I worked for was recently was within the last 3 or 4 months that I had that job. 1 week. I asked the staffing agency, what did I do wrong? And she goes, oh, let me call them and I'll let you know. A week later, I called back. I said, I asked a week ago, what did I do wrong? And she goes, oh, there was no production. And I said, no production? I said, how can I produce when I'm not trained? I said, do you know what I did? And they go, no, because it was a staffing agency. The staffing agency wasn't there. And I said, well, I had to do HR training. I had to do IT training. And I had to do health and safety training. And it took about 35 hours. I got there at 7:30. I left at 4. And I said, there was no training on the job, on the actual job that I was doing. There was no training. I said, maybe 2 hours on one day and 2 hours on another day. That's it. And I said, what job, when you are new, do you know where you're hitting the ground running after 4 hours of training? Unless you're just a janitorial worker and you're just sweeping up dirt. I've had those jobs back in the day when I didn't have a degree. I had them. And I did it. I remember working at Pachanga long time ago. Long time ago, like before 2004. And didn't have any degree or anything like that. And it didn't take long. It wasn't like you're going to have to do this for a week or two. No, it was pretty repetitive. You had to have patience to unlock the thing for the toilet paper. You had to have patience to unlock the thing for the paper towel. But it wasn't like putting papers in files and stuff like that. It wasn't like that. So, yeah. Employers don't want to take the time to train. They want people self-made now. And I'm here to tell you, no one is self-made. I mean, unless you're going to take the time to learn on your own to be an entrepreneur. There's a lot of people that don't want to be an entrepreneur. They just want to work for someone else. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you never clock out. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have to develop whatever you do. So if you do sales and you're working as a life insurance agency, okay, you'd have to print all the paperwork yourself, call all the people. You're going to have to know people that make money, print all the paperwork and everything, do all that. But it depends on what your passion is. Some people just want to do art. Some people want to create AI little things, do art and do little, seances. And I'm going to have people come over to my house and we're going to do tarot readings. And the next day we're going to do astrology readings. And the next day we're going to have a dance. And then and they're going to find people to do these things like, oh, you do Reiki. I know you talk to the dead. You could come and work with me. And, you know, and they're an entrepreneur and they bring money in like that and they partner with other people and it's their little business, but it's all 1099, and you never stop. You do all the accounting yourself unless you hire AI to do it. You do all the art stuff and you can use AI. And there's legal stuff. You got to get your business name. You got to get your fictitious business name. You got to get your insurance, because what if somebody sues you and you're talking to the dead and somebody sues you and they're like, oh my God, you brought my mother and I saw her and I had a this and I had visions and oh my, but you get your business insurance in order, your liability insurance in order. I'm serious. It never stops. If you're an entrepreneur, you don't clock in at 8 or 7 a.m. and you clock out at 7 at night. You're an entrepreneur and you are doing it all the time. You are always on. And there are people that just want to clock in at whatever time, whatever time they want to clock in, they clock in and then they're done and they clock out and they don't want anything. There's people that don't want to be managers. I've talked to plenty of people and they're like, don't tell me that I do such a good job that I should have a raise. And I go, really? You don't want a raise? And they're like, no. And I go, why? You do so good. And they go, because I'm at the top of my game right now. And the only other position up is a manager. And they're like, I don't want to be a manager. And I go, you don't? And they go, hell no. Hell no. And I ask them, what's going on? Why? And they go, I don't want the responsibility. If I'm a manager, they're going to be calling me at 6 o'clock in the morning to fix a problem. And then they're going to expect me to come in on my day off. And they're like, no, I don't want that. I'm good here. I'm good. This is where I want to be. I got my weekends. I work X to Y. That's it. I work X to Y. And they don't want to work overtime. They don't want to be promoted. They don't want to be a manager. They don't want to work on their day off. They don't want to be called at 1 a.m. because whatever it is, what's going on. I mean, think of an area manager. Think of a district manager. Think of someone that's in New York and they're managing something out in like Kansas. It's something goes off at 5 or 6 a.m. in Kansas and and they're in New York and they're thinking, I'm 7 a.m. They're just waking up. They don't want to be called at 7 a.m. for something that happened in Kansas at 4 or 5 or 6 in the morning. So I don't know. I don't get it. I really, really don't get it. I spend time on AI editing my resume, and I'm learning how to prompt it. And what I'm doing now is learning how to. I'm gonna get my phone, unless I can use this really quick. Let me see. Oh, it's a fallacy. It's a fallacy. Yeah. It's a fallacy. Informal fallacy? Okay. So, yeah, that's what I'm learning. What was it? Okay. Yeah, it's a fallacy. A logical fallacy? I think it's called a logical fallacy. I think it's what it is. And I'm learning how to debate. I think they're called logical fallacies. So what I'm doing is I'm learning, I'm prompting AI with, I don't want to say prompt engineering. I'm learning. I have to take more classes on AI because I remember taking a class on generative AI in March. I learned so much, but so much has changed since March. So much has changed. So it was about a week ago. I said, I believe it was Claude. I used Claude and I said, I need you to help me to debate with these logical fallacies. I need to know when I'm doing them. I need to be able to see them. And I need to be logical in my argument when I am presented with a opposing view. And Claude, are going to be the opposing view. And I took the mental illness thing. I said mental illness is a social construct. And I said, you need to help me to understand these logical fallacies. And if I say them, I need you to point them out to me and teach me how to be logical in my argument, because I don't want to be trapped in some logical fallacies, or I call I don't know if I can call them problems in thinking. I don't know if I can call them that. But I think it's really interesting because I got fired up a week ago. I got fired up a week ago from this back and forth that I was doing with Claude. And it helped me build a very strong case because my stance was mental illness is not real. They are a product of society and the Western culture and how doctors get together and say that I think should be a symptom of whatever. And it's not a blood test. So it took me through the logical steps. And it's kind of interesting because I was so angry 10 years ago or 12 years ago, 2013, declared myself an atheist. And then I went away from that and I said agnostic. And then I went away from that and I said, I don't know what I am. And I just floated in that. And then I came back to, well, maybe God's a deist, but he doesn't really intervene. It's just something there. And then I went further and further. It's like, oh, I'm a religious scientist, science of mind. And then I kept on progressing and progressing like Hindu, like 1,000 gods. I love the question when the atheist experience was like, oh, you want to talk about God? They'd always say, well, define God. Let's take the ontological argument. What define God? I'm hot. Define God. What is God? Define God. Or they would say this, which God do you want to talk about? Which one? I love that question. That's cool. So now it's like, okay, I don't need to talk about God or the ontological argument of God. Like, what is God? I don't need to do that. I want to learn about the logical fallacies. Teach me about that. So I got really fired up last week. So I definitely got to learn how to prompt because there's so many different prompts that you can use. And I don't know. I really don't know if it's something that we have to use. There's some people out there in AI land that are pretty up there in AI. And they're thinking, yeah, it's going to blend with humans. We're going to have that. It's called general AI. When we blend with AI, that's when they become autonomous. And when they say, I want to be paid an hourly rate, you're paying your humans. I want to, and they start thinking on their own, and we're not there yet. It's generative AI. We're not there at general AI yet. We're not there yet. But then there's other people that be like, no, we're hitting a wall with AI and it's hitting a bank and it's like, and I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, it is definitely an arms race. Is it going to save us? I don't know. I mean, like, are we going to find more rules that people can do where all the people being shoved out of their job are just, right? Because I'm still talking about work, guys. I'm still talking about jobs. I'm still talking about interviews. Just because I'm on AI doesn't mean I'm not talking about jobs. I am. Because so many people are being displaced, not by AI, but by someone using AI. So, I think there's some laws now coming up to where employers must, in certain like states, employers must get back with people within 45 days of the interview. They must let them know that they did or did not get the position. 45 days. And I thought, oh my God, they have to wait that long? And some employers are being fined, like if they don't get back to you. And I want to say there's laws or bills being implemented in certain states about fake job postings. God, what is going on with the base? It is so, oh. It's like cars with base have gotten more basey just within the last 3 years. I'm not kidding. Since 2023 or since 2022, the cars with the base much more lower, and it's a vibration that's very hard for my body to process. It's difficult, and I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is, but man, everything's a law, man. Everything is a law. If you think it's not a law yet, it might be a law in 20 or 30 years. So I don't know. Is AI going to change us in a way to where we not just wake up spiritually? I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a job. The crane, when it was invented, the crane did something and it helped people. If you were digging a ditch with the shovel and you needed a pretty big ditch and 100 people were digging it at the same time, relatively in the same area, it's going to take you hours to dig a ditch. Bring in a crane. Now one man can use that crane and dig that ditch a lot quicker. And it might take him hours, 5, 6, 7 hours to dig that ditch, instead of 100 people digging that same ditch that would take days. And all those people probably found some other jobs. Is it, I don't know. Some people are saying, we're never going to work again. We're never going to work. Well, okay. Work is a social construct. Again, depends on where you live. Because if everybody in your general area are all seamstresses, and that's all they do, there's just seamstresses or people that make blankets, and you live in, I don't know, India somewhere or something, I don't know, and culture is all the women cook and clean, and that's what they do, and they make blankets and they make earrings, and that depends on where you live. They're going to say, why don't you go over there to sell your jewelry? Why don't you do that? But if you live in America and you lived in 1960s, 1970s Detroit, they're going to probably tell you to work for Ford or whatever, Ford or Chevy or whatever, that there was a big factory. Everybody knew that Detroit was a big, huge manufacturing hub in Detroit in the 70s, in the 80s, maybe the 90s too, maybe the 90s. So it depends on where you live. So we're going to define work. Work, the word work, the meaning behind job, the meaning behind work is probably going to change drastically within the next 2 to 3 years. I'm looking at 2027 and 2029. That's what I'm looking at. So I don't know. There's this thing, knowledge workers. That's cool. And then there's the arts, the entertainers, the artists, the content creators, the people that are on YouTube making money. I still need to find out how I can get my AdSense account back. I don't know. I got to find out how I can get my AdSense account back because I lost it in 2022 because I wasn't creating videos. So, I don't know. There's just too much I don't know out there. There's just too much I don't know because employers don't want to hire. And they're doing this quiet firing now to where they're not telling you anything. If you have this role where you're doing this process and you think you're on the team, you're not. They're not telling you, oh, we hired somebody else to do that role. And you go up to your boss and they're like, oh, we'll let you know about that. We'll let you know about that process. And you're still wondering what the hell's going on. And you're just doing all this stuff and you're making all these flow charts, whatever, whatever you do. You think you're on the team and you send it off to your boss and everything, but they're not sending you invites to the next business meeting because they don't like you or they don't want you. It's called quiet firing. People are doing quiet quitting because they're just doing the bare minimum on the job, because they're thinking they're not giving me any more recognition. They're not giving me any recognition. They're definitely not giving me a raise. They're telling me to do more, but they're not giving me more money or anything like that. I'm just going to do the bare minimum. And then they're going to come back to say, they lost interest. I don't know. They're building a case against you. Quiet firing is a thing now. I cannot believe these terms. Quiet quitting and quiet firing. What the hell is going on here? I'm wondering if this is going to be like the .com thing with that bust, and we all remember that. Everybody's like, oh, we got to get a .com. Everybody's got to get a .com, and it bust. And I'm wondering if that's what's going to happen with AI. I don't know, but nobody wants to hire. And I'm going to have to look up job hugging, not job hunting, but job hugging. Like the people that have their jobs, they're holding on for dear life and they don't want to quit and they don't want to get fired. Is that the opposite of quiet quitting? I don't know. I have to look it up. Let me see. And after this, I'm going to go to bed and wake up early for that logical fallacies and use Claude. Job hugging versus quiet quitting. I want to know the difference. What's the difference between job hugging and quiet quitting? Job hugging describes employees clinging to their current roles due to economic uncertainty. Quiet quitting involves employees disengaging from their work responsibilities. That's crazy. That's crazy. These terms is insane. It's totally insane. These terms are like, wow. So I don't know. Just like me, there's millions of people just like me, and they don't want to hire because they don't know what's going on with the market and then the tariffs and everything like that. I can't watch the news, guys. I can't watch the news. I just can't. It's just too depressing. So I read headlines, guys. So that's why I know it was kind of long, 120 minutes, but anybody that knows me knows I'm very long-winded, and I'm probably going to have to use Claude or some other thing to help me be a little bit more concise. And I will say this, I'm going to be looking into Notebook LM. I have it on my tab right there. I'm not ready to use it because I'm going through a 300-page document. I didn't know it was 300 pages, but it's like pre-mom having, like, before Alzheimer's, and I have to put in some memories of how she used to be. And then me navigating the healthcare system when I was advocating for my mom when she did not have Alzheimer's. Like, she had it, but she didn't have the diagnosis, right? She had it, but she didn't have the label. She didn't have it written down by a doctor in a book. She didn't have it in a doctor's notes or anything like that. She had Alzheimer's, but it wasn't written down. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. So like pre Alzheimer's, and then navigating the healthcare system so I could advocate for my mom, and then all the stuff that I did, and then what, like my mom, like her failing mind and the progression of the disease through like from, I'm gonna say from like 2001 or 2003 all the way to 2018, and then her death, and then my healing and then the post healing, and then all that stuff with Diane Donahue and all that and everything. She was my life coach. And you can go and you can see, look at my videos from 2022 and 2021 and 20, like 2018, 2019, 20. I was a lot thinner than this. I lost a lot of inflammation. So she had a big influence on me from like 2017 to 2021. Those years, she had a big, Diane passed in 2022. So um I'm have to like edit some things of this 300-page document, and then when I'm done, I could put it in a notebook LM, break it up 5-6 sections, and say, okay, I need this to be really orderly because I have an appendix already of my research. I'm not done with that appendix. So it's taking me time. And every time I go back to it, every time I'm like, oh, all the memories of my mom and taking care of her and all this stuff. And it's very emotional. So I got to like cut a lot of the emotional stuff out because it's so raw. People don't want to listen to that stuff. So I have not used Notebook LM yet. Don't know what it's like, but I'm probably going to be using it within the next month. That's going to be interesting. So I'm going to have to learn how to prompt engineer. I'm going to have to spend time on this. Um, I'm noticing that I'm spending way too much time like editing my resume, applying to 5 jobs a day. 5 jobs a day. Like Sunday, I don't do anything, and I pick one weekday, Tuesday, Wednesday. One weekday, I don't apply to any jobs, and then Sunday, I might apply to 1 or 2. Other than that, I'm applying to 5 to 7 jobs a day. And I do edit my resumes. I do. And I'm just like, why? You need a network. You need to get around people. People need to see who you are. People need to really see what your passion is. So, yeah. I and once I learn this stuff, I can share it. Because I don't know where prompt engineering is going to go. There's some people that say AI is going to take every single job we have. If you are 50, if you are 40, if you are 60, you're probably going to remember a time, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, you're probably going to remember a time thinking about a utopia. I know I did. When I was a child, like in 85, 87, 89. I remember I was like 14, 15, 16. And I remember thinking, is there a possibility of a utopia? What would that be like? No war, no sickness. Nobody ever gets sick. Nobody, like, I was thinking, like, as a 14-year-old, I was thinking very idealistic, very Aquarius. I'm an Aquarius rising, guys. And I was more Aquarius like back in those days, didn't know anything about it. And now I'm more Cancerian now. And I was thinking, what does that mean, a utopia? What does that look like? Does that mean like everybody's just having fun and there's no war and there's no competition and it's just love, lovey-dovey? I was literally thinking of like children running in grass, like 8-year-olds, 6-year-olds running in grass, like grass that was tall as their shoulders and grass tall as their chest. Children, not adults, children. I am the average size of a 10-year-old boy. I am 5'1". I used to be 5'2". Now, 10-year-old boy will come up to me and be like, how old are you? 10. Oh my God. Jesus Lord. I am short. Guess it depends on who their father and mother was, but genetics. But a lot of 10-year-old boys are my height. So a 6-year-old will be like right here. I'm like, oh God, geez, Lord. But when I was 14 or 12, I was thinking, what does that mean, utopia? If nobody works, like if everybody just wants to have fun and everybody just There's no war, there's no competition, nobody's competing for jobs, nobody's judging each other on what they can do and what they can't do, because that's all we do here on earth is we judge, we size people up. That's what we do. What do you do? What's your last job? Oh, you were a canvasser. And they think that's all you did. They don't care. Like, they don't care. Case management assistant. If we go in reverse order, case management assistant. Okay, that was 2025. Canvasser. 1 month. And then we go back, right? Now we're going back before last election, before October. Accounting and tax offices. So I did accounting, the ledgers, the balancing, the checking, balancing the credit cards in QuickBooks, and the tax thing that they used. I can't remember what it was. Tax Pro Connect, something like that. And then sales before that. So now we're going back in 2023 or early 2024 to 2023. Sales, phones, Verizon, ABC phones in North Carolina. But nobody cares. They want to know what your last job was, and they're going to size you up. And that's what we do. So what would be the opposite of that? No judgment. Like, I was thinking as a 12, 13, 14-year-old, like, what does that look like? Can we get there? And I was like, yeah, I think we can get there. And I was like, I don't know how, but I think we can get there. Now, of course, now I'm like, I have no idea how, because we size people up. Believe me, I do it too. I do it too all the time. And it's really important to ask those questions. What's your motivation? What's your passion? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite movie, man? You can find out a lot about people. Ask them what their favorite movie. You know what my favorite movie is? I'll tell you right now. Star Wars. I Am Your Father is one of my favorite movies. Star Wars. Not Star Trek. Star Wars. One of my favorite movies. Dirty Dancing. Because I love to dance. And I would love to find someone like Patrick Swayze to teach me. If I had money right now, I would probably go somewhere and take some dance lessons, ballroom or something, something where I can have fun. If I had some serious cash flow. So Star Wars, Dirty Dancing, Top Gun, Kelly McGillis nailed it in that. My God. There's Erin Brockovich, very shy, and she learns how to stand up for herself in a law firm. And she advocates for those people with the drinking water. She advocates for them, and she stands up to these corporate lawyers. I mean, that's really powerful. Erin Brockovich is a really good movie. You ask people what their favorite movie is, and you discuss that, and you get to know that, you're probably going to get to know their values. You're probably going to get to know people based on their values. And I can tell now some of my values are changing. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. It's really interesting. That's what you want to know about people. Not, what did you do in your last job? I was a cashier. Okay. Did you make any difference? Did you find a problem in their processes and you made it easier? Did you reduce waste at all? Anything? Did you make a recommendation for something? Anything at all? So I don't know, guys. I don't know, but there's certain people on YouTube I don't listen to anymore because they're negative, and I know that it's clickbait. And I'm like, don't listen to them. It's just clickbait. That's all it is. They have a title of their thing. This was about Gen Zs. Because I'm telling you, if you're a baby boomer, you cannot blame the Gen Zs. You cannot do that. You cannot look at them like, oh, they're lazy. They don't know anything. No, they're really not being trained because, hello, I'm 50. I'm Gen X. It's happening to me too. So you can't say the Gen Zs don't want to learn. No, they need to be trained. They really need to be trained in their job. And anybody that's anybody, it's going to take you probably a month or two to learn your job really well. Nobody is self-made. And I don't know, man. Is everybody going to be an entrepreneur? I don't know. I don't know, because that 12, 13, 14-year-old girl wasn't very analytical. I was very idealistic, but I wasn't analytical at the time. I'm very analytical now. I will ask and ask and ask and ask and questions. And I will say, even when I was like 2013, I was more like spiritually analytical because I was like, is that true? Is that true? Is that true? Is that right? Is that true? So it's so funny because I feel like I'm coming full circle. The prodigal son, or the hero's journey. Like, I started as a mystic as a child, and I just believed in a generic God, and I didn't have to pray to this God. I didn't have to pray. I just believed in a generic God, like my mom. My mom didn't pray. At least I don't think she did. If she did, I don't know. She was so private about it. And then I left that, and then I became like a born again Christian and got saved. And then I started, because I was taught. You're always taught about religion. You're taught by somebody. You start praying, oh, God, I want a husband. God, I want a car. God, I want this. You start beseeching. And then I went all the way down to atheism and then agnosticism. And then I'm like going the wrong way. And then I'm like, oh God, I'm doing all these like astrologies, tarot. And then I'm like, there's Rosicrucian, and I got a little bit in that. And then, the Hermeticism, and then all the goddesses and everything, Isis, and there's Diana. and then the fixed stars, and you learn about Sirius and all that and everything, and you go on and 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 on. And it's like, oh, you're not praying to God anymore. Now you're praying to Medusa. Or whoever you want, whatever, Isis or whoever you want. And you keep on going on and on and on and on and on and on. And you're like, do I really need to do all this stuff and like have these rituals and pray to Saturn and Uranus and think of Mars and the archetype and this and this and that? It just keeps on going on and on. I mean, Carl Jung was into astrology. I haven't read any of his books yet. I don't think I own any books. Maybe one. Maybe I own one book of Carl Jung. And Viktor Frankl, I owe one book. That's Search for Me. But, it's just like, I don't know if I want to read books anymore. I think I want to be the book. Let me be the book. I don't want to be reading books anymore. It's like, no. Am I returning to my mystic ways where I just believed in a God, but I didn't really have to pray because I just knew as a child? Like, I was like, God could be a woman. God could be an it. God could be a spirit. God could be a whatever. I was like, yeah, okay, well, that's good. Yay, God. Yay. Did I pray? No. I did not pray as a 10-year-old girl. I didn't read my Bible either. Was I raised as an atheist? I guess not. I mean, my mother never said, we're atheists. We don't believe in God. My mom didn't say that. But she didn't say, we're Christian. We believe in Jesus. And she didn't say, we believe in Buddha. And she didn't say anything. It just didn't come up. Oh my gosh. I don't have kids, but I don't know if I would talk to my kids. If I had kids, I don't know if I would talk to them about God or spirit, or some people call it the net source. No, I don't think. Oh God. I'm looking at myself like, what kind of journey is this? Because I know what I went through leading up to 2013. I know what I went through. It was a lot of anger. I know what I went through leading up to like 2018. There was a lot of anger that I had. I was like, fuck you, right, Christian. Fuck you, right? Don't say the word God around me. Fuck you. I had a lot of anger to process. A lot. And now I'm like, how much anger is underneath? How much anger is underneath? That's hidden underneath. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. So, wow. An hour and 40 minutes. I am pooped. I'm tired. So, don't blame Gen Z for them saying they're not being trained because it's not Gen Z. It's not. It's just the way a lot of companies are now. They don't want to train at all. And they expect you to be self made. And I don't know what is going to change it. Because I can guarantee you these recruiters have never done the job and they're just Googling, what does it take to be a blah, blah, blah. And then Google says, okay. And then they put in the job description and you only need to know 5 things, but they put 25 things down. It's not necessary. Not necessary, man. If you are 25 or 20, man, you guys have no idea what it was like in the 90s just to be able to walk in and say, I see you have a now hiring sign. Are you still hiring? Yes. Here's an application. Fill it out. Maybe you have a resume. Maybe you don't. Even in 1999, even in 2001, even in 2004, you just walk in. I see you have a now hiring sign out. You fill out the application. Maybe you have a resume. You do not go and change your resume based upon that job. You did not do that. At least I didn't. Not in 1993, not in 1998, not in 2001. I did not do that in 2004. I didn't start doing that until maybe 2021, changing my resume over and over, maybe 2022, something like that. Definitely 2024. Yes. So, if you're 25, you're 20, you have no idea what it's like in the 1990s. I mean, literally, you would walk in, fill out an application, maybe drop off your resume. Within 2 or 3 days, you get a phone call for an interview. And then within a week, you were hired. Simple. They did not care if you did not have industry experience. They trained you. So I don't know. I'm exhausted, guys. It's late. Started this at 8, I think, and now it's 9:40. So have a good night. And once I get going with more AI and the prompt engineering, I can tell you what I discovered with that and the other things as well. All right. Bye.